We are talking food, nutrition, lifestyle, and mental health with my guest this week, nutritionist and author Rosie Millen, also known as Miss Nutritionist. Now, she came on the podcast 2 years ago, and it's wonderful to have her back. She's such a wealth of knowledge, and she's so open and honest about her own mental health struggles, and also gives some really good tips and advice for us all to help us feel good in our mind and our body as well. It's such a wonderful chat. I know you're going to love this week's episode so much. And before we dive into this wonderful conversation with Rosie, I want to tell you a little bit about the Face Yoga Teacher Training Program. Now, I've been offering this for more than 12 years now, and we have thousands of teachers in more than 70 countries around the globe. And the wonderful thing about this accredited teacher training program is you not only learn the face yoga techniques, you learn how to teach them effectively and correctly. You learn about the anatomy and physiology of the face, and you learn a lot about the holistic aspects of face yoga as well. So bringing in the mind, body and soul. So yes, it's about helping you and the people you're going to teach have a natural facelift, but it's also about helping people with their wellness as well. And it's wonderful because you can study in your own time at your own pace, and you have a supportive trainer all along the way with you should you need them. And you spend a little time with them as well when you do your practical exam at the end. There's a little written assignment that you'll do. And the whole course is fully accredited. It's also internationally renowned. So you will get a certification that enables you to teach face yoga to groups and individuals all around the world, whether it's in person, whether it's online, whether you want to teach in big group environments, whether you really prefer that one-to-one, whichever suits you. You can design a business and career that really works with you and your lifestyle. Now, you may want to add it into current wellness or beauty or fitness or yoga offerings you already have, and it's a wonderful addition to that. And many of our teachers have done exactly that. Other people have come to the Face Yoga Teacher Training Program with no prior experience at all, and that's equally great, and that's equally completely fine. So you can come into it and really learn how to integrate face yoga into what you offer in your day-to-day life, even if it's nothing to do with wellness or health or beauty. Or you may want to start a completely brand new business as a face yoga teacher, or you may just want to get this certification to use for yourself or to teach friends and family. There is so many options. So if you just go to faceyogaexpert.com, I'll also put the link in the notes for you, and you can find all the information about how to become an accredited face yoga teacher. So without further ado, let's get into this week's episode with the wonderful Rosie. Rosie, a very warm welcome back to the Face Yoga Expert podcast. How are you today?
Oh, thank you so much. I'm really good, thank you. I had a very restful weekend and I'm ready to go.
That's amazing. And it's been 2 years since you've been on the podcast. Where has the time gone?
I know, it's scary. And I think the older you get, the faster it goes.
So true. That's so true. And you have been up to so much in the last 2 years. I mean, a whole new festival. I mean, that's amazing.
I know. Sometimes I just think it's amazing what I'm doing. And then I look back at what I've done and it's actually bonkers, the amount of workload. But it's all paying off because it's just grown massively. So yeah, I'm really, really pleased.
That's so cool. And what's been your highlight of the last 2 years, would you say, if you could pinpoint one thing?
That's a really good question. I think honestly, just the way that the festival has been received. I had no when I launched it, and I think that was just before we last spoke.
Yeah.
We were about to go into just round number one, and I had no idea how popular and successful and how much of an impact it was going to make. And I think that has been the most rewarding thing. I didn't realize that there was going to be like a sort of community aspect to it. Most people that walk in, they're really scared and a bit nervous. And then at the end, they're just like, wow. And they're totally blown away because they've learned so much, but they've also met so many like-minded individuals. And that's been, so powerful.
So powerful. And for anyone that doesn't know, your festival is called Go Mental, and it's been going a couple of years now.
Yeah, that's right. So it's Go Mental. It's basically the UK's first mental wellbeing festival. And this is our third year this year. So the next one takes place on October the 4th, and we're actually in the Science Museum this year. So we're really excited.
Oh,
Yeah,
so
newsflash.
crazy.
bonkers.
That's amazing.
So yeah, but essentially, Go Mental is literally is an educational festival, and we bring together all the experts in their fields to teach everybody how to make their mental well-being journey easier. Yeah, it's if anyone wants to come and learn how to build mental resilience, mental flexibility, if you want to learn how to reduce anxiety, boost your mood, and meet like-minded individuals, then I'm actually going to send you guys a special discount code if that's okay, and you guys
Great.
can come along and
Yes.
join us. But we've got our biggest lineup yet. I don't know if you know. Well, you probably know Dr. Julie Smith. She's coming. She's headlining. We've
Great.
got Maya Chora. We've got Anna Mather, Ruby Dahl. Like, there's loads. So we've been working really hard behind the scenes to make this festival the biggest one yet, because we really want to make the biggest impact in people's mental health.
That's so cool. And I know your journey started, we talked a lot about this on the last podcast, but through going through burnout and being bedridden, and then obviously using lifestyle nutrition to heal yourself. But what led you then to think, I'm going to set up an entire festival based around mental health? Because that's quite a big jump. I mean, you were doing amazing things before, but that is a big jump.
It's a really good question. And I think, just before I launched Go Mental, I was actually at a bit of a crossroads in my life. I'd done the book, I'd done Burnout, I've done loads of talks, been on Sky News, and I was like, what else? What else can I do? Like, the question I asked myself was, how can I be more of service? And I was on a plane at some point listening to a podcast, and they said something really profound, which was, when you get stuck in your life and you don't really know what to do, ask yourself, what is bigger than you? What can you do that is bigger than you? And I just had an aha moment. I was like, that's a really good question. So literally that night when I landed, I got home and I went into bed, and I couldn't sleep because I was just thinking about this question. And I was like, what can I do? And I was asking myself, how can I be of service? I was like, where do people need my help? And I knew it was mental health. And I was like, I wanted to do something that was offline, like intentionally, so that we could be around people and it wasn't online. And then I just thought, what about a festival? And I was like, what about a festival that's purely for mental health? And then as soon as I had that idea, my brain was just going mad. And when I woke up, I knew who I wanted. Like, I knew what kind of like concept I wanted. I knew who I wanted on the panel. I was like, I discovered the name, and then I grabbed it, and then I just went for it. And ever since then, I haven't stopped. And like I said, the first year, it was literally just to test the waters and just to see if it was going to be a good product market fit. And yeah, we were totally blown away. And the feedback that we get is just unbelievable. People are just like, wow. And I think that it's priceless when you have found something that really serves everybody. It's just, we just keep doing it, because I believe that everybody is struggling with their mental health. Everyone has their own mental health journey, their own mental health story. And I think that the more that we share them, the more that we can feel better. So it's like I said, it's a great market fit, and I think it's really needed right now, because since COVID, levels of anxiety and depression have gone up by 25%. 1 in 4 people are diagnosed with depression and anxiety. So yeah, it's really needed at the moment.
It's so needed, and it takes a lot of courage and a lot of vulnerability for anyone to show up to a festival like that, or to speak to a friend or a family or a health professional about their mental health, or to even speak about it on social media. And I always think that you've got such bravery from a personal point of view, talking about your own mental health struggles, not only when you went through your burnout, but actually what you still go through on a daily basis. And how has the feedback been with that? Because I know you've been sharing a lot lately about things you've been going through.
Just kind of mind blowing. Because running this festival, I have started to focus much more on mental health, and obviously, Go Mental is everything to me now. And so every single day, it's like, you think about mental well-being in your sort of waking life, and I've also reflected on my own mental health during the course of the festivals. And I realized that it's actually, I think what spreads on social media is authenticity, it's vulnerability, it's hope, it's community. And I was getting a lot of messages offline and online about my image and how perfect I looked. And I was just like, that couldn't be further from the truth. And I was just like, my exterior is not necessarily congruent with my interior, because I'm just human. And I started to drip feed that sort of real life Rosie and that sort of vulnerable talk, and that on social media. And I sort of angled my posts to sort of encourage that. And it just went nuts. The biggest one was the loneliness piece, where I just admitted that I was really lonely, and I was very open about my journey with loneliness and how it got worse over the years. And there are hundreds of comments, thousands of views, everybody chirping up and admitting it too. And it was just mind blowing. Because we're also living in a loneliness epidemic. And I just thought, right, well, that went down well. Everybody's sort of, it's benefiting a lot of people. What else can I talk about? So I also suffer from extreme self-loathing, really crippling inner critic attack and abuse. And I have been for years. So that was my next post. So I'm just going to keep going because again, it's all what we need to talk about in terms of the mental health conversation and where people are at right now.
So important, particularly when we have platforms like we do. We must show everything because it's easy for social media to be that highlights reel. And yes, it's lovely to put those posts on of a great holiday or a really lovely video where we're giving tips. But actually, if we're sharing things we're going through, it not only makes people understand that we're human as well, but it helps other people feel less alone, and it helps other people feel, I guess, braver in their own life to show up and to talk about it, because there's still, unfortunately, that stigma around mental health. If we break our leg, then we have no problem telling everybody about it. The person we meet in the shop, on social media, we can ring our parents and tell us whatever it might be. We've got absolutely no problem. It'll just roll off the tongue. Oh, I've broken a leg. But actually, if you're suffering from mental health, it's often hard to tell even the people you love the most.
Absolutely. And I wish that what the world would do universally is give the world back like a big green light or a permission to it's okay to be vulnerable. It's
Yes.
okay to be scared. It's okay to feel lonely and be like, if you feel like that, talk to somebody and just share it. And we're not there yet, but I just think we need to I wish the world could just open up in this big kind of like massive acceptance.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so important. I think mental health affects everyone in different ways. So sharing your unique story helps so much as well. It's interesting that, I hear you talk about the loneliness, where for me, my mental health is affected more by overwhelm. By actually being too busy and being around people too much. Yeah, it's really interesting. And actually and I often talk as well, I've had PMDD ever since my period started when I was a teenager. So I often talk, particularly on this podcast, about how my hormones have always affected my mental health and how I have that sort of 5 to 7 days every month where my mental health is completely different and my physical health to the rest of the month. And often a trigger for that for me is overwhelm. And actually I need to be alone to heal from that. But I love hearing how the story from you, yeah, it's almost the opposite, yet it can cause the same mental health issues. And that's why it's so important for us to speak up.
Absolutely. And when I did post that loneliness reel, so many people were initially like, me too, me too. But then I had exactly that. I had a lot of other people saying that they were the other side of the fence, which was, oh my God, I have to have alone time. And if I'm around people, I just freak out. And that was really eye-opening for me because I'd never considered that other, like that perspective before.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. It all comes back to the same thing, which is, listening to what we really, really need and just giving ourselves permission to register that and soothe us, self-soothe in the ways that we need.
Yeah, and letting go of comparison as well. I think that's the other thing. And particularly, you talk so bravely about self-image. And often a lot of that does come down to comparison. And unfortunately, I think social media has got a negative part to play on that. That's
They say
also,
that comparison will kill you, be you, don't they? There's that big quote. But
yeah.
it's so hard not to do, isn't it? And I wish that there was a sort of universal sort of checklist or sort of law that said that you weren't allowed to do that, or there was some way that we could just shut it down on social media, or there was an alert that just shut down your phone or something or other to just, make sure that you weren't doing that so often, so that you would catch yourself out, or somebody could catch you out from not doing it so often, because it can be really damaging.
Yeah. They can be really damaging. And do you have any sort of go-to wellness hacks or habits that you do when you feel yourself going into either that loneliness or issues with self-image or any other sort of mental health fatigue, whatever it might be? Do you have some sort of go-to things? Because often we need those almost like emergency things that we can go to.
Yeah, the first thing I do, so as soon as I feel overwhelmed with anything like the loneliness or too much stress or just overloaded, the first thing I do is grab my journal and do a brain dump. And I swear by it because literally putting pen to paper, within about 60 seconds, you can get control of your emotions, clarity on your thoughts, and perspective. And so I sort of just write down everything I'm feeling in that moment, like a brain dump. And then I sort of talk about why I'm feeling that way. And then I write down, what could I do differently? Or how can I get myself away from this feeling and into more of a positive mental health state? And it is absolutely groundbreaking. Every single time I do that, I just feel relief. I feel instant relief and I'm ready to sort of go back to the world again. So that's kind of number
So
one.
good.
The second thing the second, do you journal as well? Are you a fan of
I
writing things
do
down and doing a brain
journal.
dump?
I don't do brain dumping that much. I do it sometimes. I definitely have my go-to things. So for me, I need to walk and I need to go in nature. So if I find that things are getting overwhelmed, which is my trigger, it's almost like that run away. I need to get out the house. I need to be alone. I need to move. I need to be around nature. So that's always my go-to. Or moving my body with yoga or even sort of like shaking out. That helps me a lot. EFT tapping is great for me as well. I find that great. Affirmations, gratitude, whether that's written in a journal. So I've got my like go-to, but it's interesting actually how the walk has become like my almost like you have to have that like one emergency thing. It's your one medicine.
I
Yes.
and my and I love that you said that because my second favorite is getting out in nature.
Mhm.
I absolutely am exactly the same
Mhm.
because I feel like you have to interrupt that stress response and step away from the environment that's causing you stress. Because they say that you can't heal in the same environment that made you sick. But getting out in nature is absolutely fabulous. And I don't know if you know this, but the plants and the trees, they actually emit organic compounds called phytoncides, which
Yes.
literally stimulate the nervous system to calm you down. And they also boost your immune system, which I just think is super cool. And that's why when you walk outside, you actually feel really connected and really calm and really recharged. And I think it's a great way to sort of, control your emotions, find that inner peace and just calm the mind.
And do you have any particular foods that you recommend if we are struggling with our mental health that we either bring in to our diet or we try to cut down or eliminate from our diet?
Yeah, great question. I get asked this a lot, of course, but I like to say the three F's. So fat, fiber, and fermented foods. These are the foods you really want to increase. And when I'm saying fats, I'm talking, like oily fish, nuts, seeds, omega-3 fats. They have very powerful anti-inflammatory properties, but literally the fat that you eat reflects the fat that's in the brain. Like the quality of the fat that you eat reflects the quality of the fat in the brain. And every single cell in the brain is sort of surrounded by a cell membrane, which is like a cellular wall, and that's made of fat. So if you're eating lots of hard fats and saturated fats and like sugar, which gets glycated, then that basically means that the cell wall gets really, really hard and the cell signaling can't occur. Like the messages can't get in and out of the cell, nutrients can't get in and out of the cell. So literally, if you want to make sure that you're swapping the bad fats for the healthy fats so that it supports the brain. So dietary fiber is actually fermented in the gut and it basically produces something called short chain fatty acids, which are very anti-inflammatory. So increasing your fiber is a great thing to do. You want to be getting at least 30 grams in per day, fruits, vegetables, legumes, oats, rice, these sorts of things. And also fermented foods. So foods like yogurt, kefir, sauerkraut, kombucha, they literally feed the gut microbiome. And the microbiome are super duper powerful. They're so tiny, but they're so powerful. And when you have micro-friendly bacteria in the gut, they literally produce 50% of your body's dopamine and 70% of your body's serotonin. So, and I'm a huge fan of probiotics as well. So maybe taking some probiotics, the friendly bacteria, because we have up to about thousand different species of bacteria, and each one do different things. So Lactobacillus plantarum helps to produce dopamine. Lactobacillus rhamnosus helps to produce GABA, which is the calming neurotransmitter. So yeah, it's all about eating the right foods and taking some good supplements to support your mental health. And then similarly, foods to avoid, alcohol is a big one. I mean, I've been teetotal for a year now. I cut out alcohol for a year. It was absolutely like I would not ever go back because my mental health got better, obviously. The clarity was the first thing that I noticed. My competitive edge, my productivity, my energy, then my skin, my sleep. I mean, you name it, it all happened because alcohol, I think, is extremely inflammatory in the body. It robs vitamins and minerals from the brain. And I heard somebody say once that alcohol is a neurotoxin, and that feeling of being drunk is your body telling you that you're being poisoned. So, and it really affects sort of levels of dopamine and serotonin. It really disrupts those neurotransmitters. So, if you are really struggling with anxiety and depression, cutting out alcohol might be your first step. And there's no, I don't think I've seen anybody that hasn't done that and not felt great. And then too much sugar, just making sure that you're not eating too much sugar because it's very inflammatory in the body, but also in the brain. And there's a new sort of school of thought. I don't even know this, Danielle, about sugar and inflammation of the brain and what depression is. So they're saying now that actually only 25% of people who are diagnosed with depression have low levels of serotonin. But actually, what they're seeing is most people with depression actually have inflamed brains, and depression is just a symptom of an inflamed brain. And obviously, the diet really affects the inflammatory levels of the body and the brain. And so, if you've got that inflamed brain and you're suffering with depression and anxiety, cutting out sugar might really help that out. And it also, wreaks havoc with your blood sugar levels, with your hormones, with your mood. So, yeah, just be careful about not having too much sugar. And ditto with caffeine. A lot of studies show that too much caffeine can increase cortisol levels in the bloodstream, which can trigger anxiety and panic attacks and burnout. And you know that you're drinking too much caffeine when you get the shakes. That's basically your body telling you that you don't have enough of the enzymes to break down the caffeine in coffee. So it's just about being sensible and maybe swapping, taking out some of the caffeine for caffeine-free teas like herbal teas and ginger, lemon, peppermint, and just seeing how you go in terms of your mental health and your energy.
They're great tips. And really, they're so simple to do. But not only the science shows that they're going to make a big difference to our mental health, but also anecdotally, I mean, like you say, you can speak to anybody that's given up alcohol or cut down their sugar or increase the fat in their diet. And actually, most people would say it's made some positive impact. So, food is so important and we have to.
It's almost everything, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is. It's our fuel. Yeah, food and sleep. And let's talk about sleep. So, do you have any tips, either that you use personally or that you share with your clients, to help you sleep better, particularly if you are struggling with your mental health?
I love this question. Yes, magnesium is probably my first go-to because what magnesium does is it literally it dilates the blood vessels and relaxes the muscles. So when it dilates the blood vessels, it basically means that all the blood can go through easier, which means that all the oxygen can get to all the organs and all the muscles and all the nutrients as well. So it's literally the number one mineral for relaxing you. And 50% of the population are actually deficient in magnesium, and you can tell that you've got a deficiency when you have twitches. So when you've got like an eye twitch, that's a magnesium deficiency. When you have any muscle twitch in your body, like restless leg syndrome, that's a magnesium deficiency. And interestingly, heart palpitations, that's a muscle twitch. It's a magnesium deficiency. So if you're really stressed and you're overworked and overwhelmed and you're having twitches, taking magnesium 20 minutes before you go to bed should help to relax you and calm you down. I'm a big fan of CBD. So CBD is basically from the cannabis plant, but it's without the THC, which is a psychoactive component. And that is excellent for reducing anxiety. And what it does is, especially at night time, if you've got those thoughts going round and round and round and you can't, like the monkey brain, if you just take a little bit of CBD a little bit before you go to bed, it kind of just calms. It's like it really relaxes you and calms you, and just the thoughts just dissipate and they kind of leave the brain. So that's one for you there. But I also think just having a routine is really critical for sleep. So going to bed at the same time every night, waking up at the same time every morning, because then that keeps your circadian rhythm really solid. And just winding down before you go to bed, taking the laptops away, not being on the phones, because we know that the blue light really interrupts the production of melatonin, which is the hormone that tells you go to sleep. Yeah, those would be my strong three, I
Yeah,
think.
a good strong three, absolutely. And if someone is really suffering with mental health at the moment, so perhaps it's impacting on their day-to-day life, maybe they are housebound or bedridden with it, what's usually your advice of step one in order for them to get help and to start to make changes?
I can tell them how you feel. Because if you, the first thing you need to feel is safe and comfortable. When you're feeling lonely or vulnerable or there's a moment of despair, you've got to reach out to somebody that you feel comfortable with. So whether that's a friend, a spouse, a partner. For me, I did all that initially and then I needed additional support. So I actually have therapy quite regularly now. And that has absolutely, it saved my life. So if you are in a position to get, professional support, it is absolutely, it's so powerful, because it's educational. You learn things that are a little bit outside of the box. You learn new tactics and tools that you can implement in your life that you wouldn't necessarily have thought of on your own or with a friend or like your mum or your dad or a family member, for example. And then I think it's about maybe, being brave enough to sort of join a community, and sort of whether that's a new community in the mental health space or doing something that you really love and you surround yourself with people and you're doing something fun, it instantly just it makes you it reminds you how expansive the life your that life is, and you don't have to feel sad all the time. And it just breaks the rut, do you know what I mean? Like breaks those bad mental health cycles.
So true. And if you were to finally share with us your top tip, and this can be either something that you use for yourself or maybe something that you do share with your clients to feel a sense of inner peace wherever you are on your mental health journey, what would that be?
I think it's about changing my environment. So when I feel like I'm overworked and overwhelmed, I always have to get out. So it's like taking a break, being in nature, booking a holiday. When I'm in a better mental health state, I feel that inner peace. So for me, it's about changing my environment.
Such a good tip. And I actually use this with my children as well. I've got a 9-year-old and a 12-year-old. And whenever they're struggling, particularly my 9-year-old, I always bring it either to a different room in the house or go out in the garden or just go out somewhere. And instantly that can change something which felt like such big feelings that she couldn't deal with to actually something which feels a little bit more manageable. So that's always my go-to thing as a parent as well. Change their environment immediately and it literally shifts everything.
And it comes back to that safety sort of
Yes.
mechanism that you got to feel safe.
Yeah.
And, I think that when you stepped out of that situation that you're stressed in, from stress to safe, that's when you can find the inner peace again.
So true. And Rosie, if people would like to come along to your Go Mental Festival or hear about what more about what you do on social media and everywhere else, where can they reach out to you?
Yeah. So I'm on Instagram as Miss Nutritionist. We're on also as go_mental UK. So I'd love you guys to come and say hello. But if you would like to come and join us, it does take place on Saturday, the 4th of October. We've got a huge lineup of people. We'd absolutely love to have you there.